Hello and welcome to ShopLogic. This is your podcast for all things ethical consumerism, and this is episode 6. I'm your host, Adrienne Marie. I am the creator of ShopLogic, which is a website, an app, and the current podcast that you're listening to. Hopefully, we are soon to be an ethical brand certifier. Essentially, ShopLogic is a database to answer all of your questions about what we buy and how it affects you, others, animals, and the planet. The ultimate goal is learning together how we can buy better. There is a lot of power in each and every one of us as a consumer. We buy things every single day and consume food, products, clothing, toiletries that always have an impact on the world, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way. The idea here is to not be so clueless or in the dark as to what we support with our money each time we buy any and all products. It's about doing the best we can each time we shop to improve our own health, the livelihoods of others, animals and their welfare, and environmental sustainability. Together, we can buy with more in mind, and this is your absolute best podcast to listen to for ethical consumerism made easy. I like to collect and organize data, actually manually, not using AI because it's not always accurate, at least not yet. So I've noticed a lot of contradictions, in fact, with AI responses. So that's why I dig much deeper for answers and for transparency when it comes to what we buy. I am your shopping skeptic, but with solutions. And who are you as a listener? Maybe you're wanting to make changes and want to be aware of what products and brands to avoid or support. You seek honest, unbiased info from a fellow mindful consumer pertaining to brands, ingredients, materials, products, etc. And you don't want to buy blindly, but instead you want full transparency before giving in to attractive marketing tactics that might be doing more harm in the world than the average shopper is aware of. If you're like me, you want to make a difference in the easiest way possible with your consumerism. So yes, it's something we do every single day, every week, and it's actually best to be cautious about what and who you're supporting. On episode 5, which was the last episode recorded, I discussed holiday commercialism, alternative gift ideas, ethical New Year's Eve party prep, healthier charcuterie ideas without cured meats, Veganuary, which is a challenge in January, and we have been on a very long hiatus since then. So at the time of this current podcast recording, it is now February. Took a bit of a break there. And on today's episode, I plan on discussing some New Year's goals, getting fit, Veganuary, even though we are a bit past that now. That was something that happened in January. And in general, just going vegan. What are some common questions and answers? Also, what's in your gym bag? If you are trying to get in shape and maybe lose some weight, build some muscle, just generally create a healthier physical version of yourself, we'll discuss what things are in your gym bag that you might have bought or will be buying in the future. It's going to feature dangers of deodorant, ethical implications of activewear brands, flawed and favorite fitness foods, and the Game Changers documentary. So first, let's get right into Veganuary. What is Veganuary? Well, it's a crowd-funded campaign to issue a challenge each January promoting eating vegan for the month, and maybe longer at this point. When I became vegan, I had been vegetarian for many, many years and decided to do the Veganuary challenge and just see what that would be like. Didn't know if it would be hard or easy, but I definitely wanted to take my diet to the next level, mainly for the reasons of animal welfare. Instead of continuing to eat eggs and cheese and cow's milk, I decided that those things needed to be cut out of my diet. I did not want to continue supporting the livestock industry at all, because whether you're eating meat or cheese or anything that involves exploiting an animal that does not want to be used to produce food. And so there are a lot of negative side effects to these things, not just for your own health. It is also because the animal is in captivity and being exploited for monetary gain. A lot of times the farmers see this as a business only and for profit, and so the animal welfare is compromised. So they're not typically treated very well, and even if the farmers say that they are ethical, what have you, how could you really be sure? So that's why going vegan is definitely the safest way to know that you are not directly hurting an animal. Let's get into some vegan questions and answers. These are some common questions and answers you might have as a total beginner. What does vegan mean exactly? Well, being vegan means avoiding any and all animal products. So in terms of food, that would be meat, dairy, eggs, and even honey. That's right. And often non-food items like leather, wool, and products tested on animals. If you're wondering how it's different than, say, a vegetarian, well, a vegetarian simply doesn't eat meat, but they might eat cheese and eggs, honey, etc., and might not continue to apply that to other areas previously mentioned, like clothing. Question number 2, is a vegan diet healthy? Yes. A well-planned vegan diet is considered healthy for all stages of life by major nutrition organizations, and the key is variety and making sure you get a few critical nutrients: protein, calcium, that type of thing. So vegan question and answer number 3, where do vegans get protein? This is a question that every vegan will hear again and again, probably for the rest of their lives. Well, the answer is from plants. Yes, believe it or not, plants contain protein. So some common sources might be beans and lentils. That's definitely a staple food in my pantry. Tofu, tempeh, edamame, chickpeas and green peas, nuts and seeds, and whole grains like quinoa, very high in protein, and oats, believe it or not. So most people get more than enough protein without even trying. Question and answer number 4 about the vegan diet. Will I be deficient in nutrients? Not if you plan properly. Some nutrients you need to pay attention to would be vitamin B12. This is something that actually comes from soil. So when you eat animals, for instance, meat, you think maybe the common person thinks, oh, you can only get B12 from meat. That's not true, because actually cows, pigs, what have you, when they eat grass and when they graze and when they eat plant foods, B12 is actually produced in the soil. So they are actually supplemented with B12 and then we get it through the animals. But if you're vegan, you don't want to get it through the animals. So the whole point here is to bypass the middleman, or in this case, animal, and just get B12 directly. So that's a common misconception about B12, is that it comes from animals, and it's just simply not true. So even the animals themselves are supplemented with B12, especially if they are factory farmed and not able to go out and graze in a natural way and contact that soil. Also nowadays, sadly, there's a lot of deficiency in the soil, and the soil doesn't even have as much B12 as it once did back in the day. So even livestock animals are fed supplements such as B12. But enough about B12. Moving along in nutrients, you also want to pay attention to iron. So ways you can get iron would be through lentils, spinach, and fortified foods. Omega-3s would be flax or flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, algae. Calcium's easy to get. It's fortified in a lot of plant milks, tofu, and greens like spinach. And vitamin D. You can get vitamin D through the sun or through a supplement. I honestly just take a multivitamin and it covers all these bases. So this is similar to planning needed on any diet, not just a vegan diet. Question number 5, is vegan food expensive? Well, it doesn't have to be. There are a lot of affordable staples for your vegan diet, such as beans, rice, pasta, potatoes, oats, and vegetables. These are some of the cheapest foods available. It is a win-win. They're nutritious foods. They contain a lot of the vitamins and minerals you need, and they're easy to access. Specialty vegan products can be a lot pricier, but that's more of an optional thing. Question 6, what do vegans eat instead of meat? Vegans eat whole foods like beans, lentils, vegetables. You can eat meat alternatives like tofu, tempeh, seitan, and veggie burgers. And familiar meals made vegan can be things like tacos, pasta, curry, stir fry. You're really not giving up food. You are just swapping out ingredients. It is not a diet of deficiency or subtraction. It's about supplementing and switching it up. Question 7, is vegan food boring? Well, the answer is no, not even close. Vegan food includes cuisines like Indian, Thai, Ethiopian, Mexican, Middle Eastern, Italian, and a lot of these types of international cuisines are already plant-based by default. Question 8, what about the taste? Won't I miss meat and cheese? Is what you might be thinking. Well, your taste buds adapt quickly often in a few weeks, actually. So there are also great plant-based cheeses and meats. The cheeses, they have a long way to go, but there are a lot of new flavors that you may have never tried before. And honestly, from my personal perspective, giving up cheese was really difficult. I'm not going to lie. I was eating a ton of cheese when I was a vegetarian. However, when you stop eating cheese, you'd be surprised how quickly you don't miss it. The craving for cheese is reduced, and this has to do with, I always mess up this word, casein. It is found in cheese that is actually a very addictive property. So once you eliminate the casein, however you want to call it, found in cheese, you'll find that once you're vegan, you can find ways to have like that creamy texture that you like, maybe through hummus or through plant-based cheese or something, but you honestly really start to not even crave it that much. Question 9, can athletes or bodybuilders be vegan? Yes, there are so many athletes, elite athletes, in fact, that have discovered they thrive on vegan diets. It is proven to be much better for performance. Question 10, is veganism good for the environment? A vegan diet is the absolute most sustainable, best, hands down diet for the environment because it uses less land, water, and energy and produces fewer greenhouse gas emissions than animal-based diets. Next question, is veganism just a diet? Well, for many people, it's an ethical lifestyle that aims to reduce harm to animals as much as possible. So this is not just about food, it's about clothing, not wanting to buy leather or fur or suede or wool, etc. Because the whole idea here is to help the animals. We don't want to use them or exploit them. We do not want them to be seen as just a profitable, money-making thing. Animals are living, feeling creatures that do feel pain and pleasure, and we do not want to inflict harm upon them by continuing to support industries that do just that. So what do vegans do at restaurants or social events? Well, my best advice is check the menu ahead of time. A lot of restaurants nowadays will be accommodating. So you might be wondering, isn't veganism extreme or restrictive? Well, it can definitely feel that way at first, but in all honesty, most vegans say they actually eat more variety than before. And you might be asking yourself, do I have to go vegan overnight? For me, that was the easiest option. Because I did the Veganuary challenge starting on January 1st, many years ago, I decided that because it is kind of a personal challenge to myself, that I would go vegan overnight just to see if I could do it. And for me, that was a very black and white decision. Okay, I'm going to start it on this day. But if that's not for you, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to go vegan overnight. A lot of people transition gradually. So cutting out certain foods over time, progress is the goal here, not perfection. So if you slip up here and there, that's fine. Just jump back on the wagon and keep going vegan. You don't have to scratch the whole diet. So statistically, people go vegan because of animal welfare. That tends to be the number one most popular reason to go vegan is because of the animals. I know I can speak to that. That is something I always think about. Because I love to eat junk food as well, it's not always about health. So for me, it's first and foremost about the animals. Secondly, the second most popular answer would be for health. Third is environmental impact and just personal values in general. It's often a mixture of all of them, but I think what kept me going consistently with the vegan diet to this day, years and years later, is thinking about the animals. As previously mentioned in this episode, we will also discuss at the gym. So we might be trying to get back in shape, have some fitness goals for 2026 in the new year, and definitely going out and maybe buying some activewear. So if you're trying to hit the gym, get back into fitness, up your fitness game, etc., there are some ethical issues of activewear brands. So there are some that are ethical, some that are vegan, sustainable, but others that you want to be aware of and maybe avoid because there are key ethical issues in the activewear industry. Labor exploitation, this is the biggest one. Many brands manufacture in countries with low wages, long hours, and unsafe factories. Garment workers, often women or children, may earn below a living wage, lack of union rights, and worker protections. Red flags to look for in some activewear brands, potentially avoid, would be ones that don't disclose their factory, their wages, or audits. There can also be some environmental damage with activewear. A lot of it's made from synthetic materials, so polyester, nylon, elastane. These are materials where plastic is used, and in turn, plastic equals microplastics. Washing leggings releases microfibers into oceans, high water and chemical use in dyeing processes. Even recycled polyester still sheds some microplastics. It is better. It's not perfect. Next would be the issue of greenwashing. What is greenwashing exactly? Well, it's basically where brands will try to market themselves and create this idea of being eco-friendly, when in fact that's not the case. And there are lots of marketing tricks they can use that are not illegal. Unfortunately, they're allowed to do psychological marketing tricks like making their labels green, giving the impression that they're sustainable or eco-friendly. They can even say that they're eco-friendly or earth conscious and use super vague terms, but they might not actually be that, especially if they don't have any data or info to back up that claim. Also, in activewear brands, you might actually encounter animal-derived materials. It is less common, but some materials to watch out for would be wool, including merino wool, silk blends, leather logos or trims, animal-tested dyes or treatments. So it's not so common to find leggings or sports bras or fitness sets, what have you, that contain animal products in their materials, but it is still something to be mindful of, especially when it comes to shoes. A lot of shoes have leather as a material used. But there is hope. I am not just going to talk about all of the negative things that you might encounter with activewear brands, because there are so many that are way more ethical and the better choice. There are ethical, vegan, and sustainable activewear brands. None are going to be perfect, but here are some that are the most responsible. Girlfriend Collective. This brand is good because they actually use materials made from recycled plastic bottles. They have a transparent supply chain, fair labor practices. They are fully vegan, thank you, and size inclusive. So this brand, Girlfriend Collective, is best for leggings, bras, basics. They still do produce some synthetic materials which result in microplastics, but again, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. PACT is another brand, PACT. They're good because they are GOTS certified organic cotton. They have fair trade factories, they use vegan materials, and lower impact dyes. This brand, PACT, is really good for yoga and low impact workouts. Next up, we have Tentree. So they are good because they use recycled polyester and something called Tencel, Tencel. It's a newer type of material that is produced that is eco-friendly. Tentree is a brand that is also vegan. They have strong climate commitments like tree planting and emission tracking, and they're best for lifestyle and lighter workouts. Boody, Boody, is another brand that's great because they use bamboo viscose, which is plant-based. They have certified ethical factories, and they're vegan and low impact. Again, best for yoga, lounging, and Pilates. Patagonia, this one is so-so, and I'll tell you why. They are good because they are about transparency. They do have fair trade certified factories. They do use recycled materials, and they can make repairs over replacements, which is nice for the environment. But are they vegan? No. Some products, sure, but Patagonia, as a brand in general, uses a lot of wool. They are not totally vegan, so if you want to support a brand that is fully vegan, that's what I would recommend, because some people don't want to support brands, even if they are buying a vegan product, when that particular brand and company is still using animals at the end of the day. They don't want to support that in general. So here are some brands that are often criticized, and I'm not really saying never buy them, but just be aware. Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, Gymshark, and Shine, oh my gosh, how do you even say that? I don't know. Have I ever even said that name out loud? You know what I'm talking about. I think it's Shane, Shein, the notoriously cheap brand of clothing, and Fashion Nova. So those are ones especially that last one, you could try to avoid entirely because they rely on opaque supply chains and they use fast fashion production models. So to shop more ethically, even beyond brands, you could buy secondhand activewear, surprisingly easy, and it's at your own discretion. I have bought some very gently used or not at all used yoga pants from thrift stores before. You can wash synthetics in a microfiber catching bag. You can buy fewer but more high quality pieces that will last longer and stand the test of time. And look for these certifications: Fair Trade, GOTS, OEKO, Tex, and Blue Sign. By the way, this podcast currently does not have any sponsors. So when I mention brands that I am promoting, saying that they are vegan, eco-friendly, some of the more ethical choice brands, they are not paying for any type of advertisement or sponsorship. It's just me doing my own research to help out us as consumers to know what is the better buy here. Another product when it comes to going to the gym, obviously, you're going to be wearing deodorant, or I should hope so at least. So what is wrong with deodorant? Why would deodorant be dangerous, unhealthy? So maybe you already know, but the potential dangers of deodorant include aluminum compounds. So these are commonly used in antiperspirants to block your sweat glands. And by preventing sweating, aluminum temporarily traps sweat under the skin. So a lot of studies have raised concerns that this exposure may be linked to health issues like hormone disruption and increased risks of breast cancer or neurological conditions. So that is why I always choose aluminum-free deodorant. That's something that's very common and easy to find these days. So really try to avoid antiperspirants for your own health. Another concern with deodorant is parabens. So these are preservatives used to extend shelf life. They could also mimic estrogen in the body, again, interfering with hormonal balance. Deodorants can also contain synthetic fragrance and a word I cannot even pronounce, phthalates, PHTHALATES. How do you say that? I don't know. That can trigger allergic reactions, skin irritation, headaches, breathing problems. Ugh, too many side effects to name. And beyond personal health, deodorant can have environmental impacts. Aerosol sprays, like for instance, hairspray, any type of spray, they release pollutants that contribute to air pollution, which I know sounds crazy, but because it's just a little spray, but it actually does make an impact. Safer and healthier solutions in the deodorant world would include natural deodorants that use the main ingredient of, say, baking soda, magnesium, arrowroot powder, or even activated charcoal to absorb moisture and neutralize the odor without blocking your sweat glands. Something I always watch out for too when it comes to toiletries especially is, was it tested on animals? For deodorant, a lot of times it can be vegan. They don't really use animal products so much, animal ingredients in deodorant. However, they do a lot of animal testing. So I always look for those two things when shopping for toiletries. Is it cruelty-free and is it vegan? Because those things mean different things. If a product is vegan, it does not contain animal ingredients. And if a product is cruelty-free, it has not been tested on animals. Different things. Wish they could just kind of make it into one, but you have to check for both. So here are some vegan and cruelty-free deodorant options, which means no animal testing and no animal ingredients, which is what we want to see. Brand is Schmidt's, which makes a great lavender and sage deodorant. Smells really good. Native creates coconut and vanilla deodorant. It's aluminum-free, paraben-free. Humble is vegan and for sensitive skin. That's another deodorant brand. Just Ingredients creates a deodorant called Eucalyptus Mint. And that main ingredient is magnesium. So it's a magnesium deodorant also made in the US. That might be something to consider if you want to support more local businesses. Each and Every is another brand. They create a deodorant, Eternal Summer, with coconut and lime. It's a natural fragrance deodorant, so that's great. And there's another brand called Zero Waste Deodorant Bar. They are very sustainable because they don't use the plastic packaging. So in a nutshell, here are some tips for choosing and using vegan deodorant. Read the labels, look for aluminum-free, paraben-free, vegan, cruelty-free. You might be looking out for sensitive skin. So if you're trying to get in shape in the new year and you're hitting the gym, you're working out, you are now aware of some activewear brands, what are you wearing, and then also which deodorants to choose and which to avoid. Chances are you're also going to be getting into some fitness foods. So common fitness foods, there are some that are very flawed And there are some that are my favorite and more preferred foods for fitness. Common fitness foods that are actually unhealthy and unethical. Let's see here. So, fitness foods that aren't as healthy as they look would be whey protein and dairy-based protein powders. Why do people think they're healthy? Well, they advertise high protein, lean gains, muscle recovery. But the issue here is that whey protein and dairy-based protein powder is very highly processed. It often causes bloating, acne, inflammation. It's linked to insulin spikes and digestive issues. And there's also the ethical issue, of course, with the dairy industry, which involves forced impregnation, calf separation, and slaughter, often contaminated with heavy metals and cheap powders. So these are reasons to not consume whey protein or dairy-based protein powder. It is absolutely not necessary for muscle growth and far from ideal for gut health. You might see a lot of gym rats and fitness influencers using eggs, egg whites, and egg-based fitness meals. They're popular because they're low calorie, high protein, and claimed to be clean eating. However, the issues with eggs would be that they are a nutrient-poor choice once the yolk is removed. Eggs contain cholesterol, and there are inflammation risks. And the ethical issue pertaining to the animals would be that male chicks are killed at birth and hens are overworked and culled young. So what is chick culling? That is where in the egg and chicken industry, the male chickens are not valued like the female ones because they will not produce eggs. Biology 101. So what they do is when the baby chicks are old enough to determine the sex, whether they're male or female, they have factory workers literally go through each one and determine whether they're male or female, and then the male chicks are sadly destroyed. They are pulverized literally right there on the spot because they are of no use to the egg industry. It is super, super sad, but that is the reality and why you don't want to continue to eat eggs, support the egg industry, or even eat chickens or support any of that ever. The reality of eggs is that it's an overhyped protein source with serious ethical baggage. Next would be protein bars. Sometimes protein bars are not great. People like them because they're convenient, macro-friendly, but they are super processed and usually loaded with sugar, seed oil, artificial sweeteners. They can absolutely spike your blood sugar and wreck your digestion. And many are basically candy bars with a bit of protein added. If these protein bars that you see have 20 or more ingredients that you can't even pronounce, that is not going to be clean fuel for your diet. Next up would be low-fat fitness yogurts. They seem healthy because it's high protein, low calorie, but the issues here would be a lot of sugar, a lot of artificial flavors and thickeners, and dairy-related inflammation. So the ethical issue is the same as before. The dairy industry is not one to support. Pertaining to the dairy industry, similar to the egg and chicken industry, the males, when they're born, are considered of no use because in this case, the male calves will never produce milk, so they don't have a need for them. And often the baby boy calves are sold to the veal industry. Next up on flawed fitness foods would be lean meats, chicken breast, turkey, tuna. They are praised for their high protein, low fat. But the issues here would be inflammation and gut microbiome disruption. Factory farming includes antibiotics, hormones, disease risk. So these are reasons to not eat lean meat. Ethically speaking, industrial animal farming causes immense suffering, and there's environmental damage, water usage, deforestation, pollution. So the reality is protein does not necessarily equal health. So I have set the stage. There is a problem with all of these notorious quote-unquote fitness foods that are actually super flawed and ones to avoid for not just your health, but the environment, also animal cruelty. So here are some vegan fitness foods that are both healthy and ethical that are going to be great for building muscle, getting in shape, losing weight, and then some. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas, beans, they are high protein, high fiber, great for gut health. Slow digesting carbs equals stable energy, and they're rich in iron, zinc, and magnesium. Very good for muscle recovery, endurance, and fat loss. Tofu, tempeh, edamame, These are sources for a complete protein. They're anti-inflammatory. Fermented tempeh supports your gut health, and there's no cholesterol. The bonus here is that soy is one of the most studied foods for athletic performance. Despite any type of myth about soy being bad for you, it is not. If it's organic soy, organic tofu, tempeh, edamame, then you are in the right place. That is a perfect food. Whole grains, quinoa, oats, farro, and brown rice. These are carbs that are essential for training. Quinoa is a complete protein. It is great. It's a superfood, and oats boost testosterone naturally via mineral support. Vegan protein powders, there can be good, clean ones. You need to look out for pea and rice blend. This is a complete amino profile. That's something that is desirable. Also, try to find a protein powder with minimal ingredients and no artificial sweeteners. Some examples would be brands like Naked Pea, Sun Warrior, and Vivo Life. There are also some healthy fats that you would ideally like to incorporate in your new fitness diet. Avocados, nuts, and seeds. These are wonderful for hormone support, joint health, and better nutrient absorption. Some top picks would be chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds. Great to add to a smoothie. They really don't taste like anything. Or sprinkle on your cereal or oats in the morning. Dark leafy greens, this is kind of a no-brainer. Everybody knows that dark leafy greens are great. Obviously, with produce like fruits and vegetables, you're going to want to buy it organic to avoid any pesticides that may have been used on these vegetables. Dark leafy greens are great because they're actually very high in calcium, iron, and antioxidants, and an anti-inflammatory. Some examples would be spinach, kale, arugula. They are super underrated performance foods. So here is a big fitness myth to remember. Protein is very important, but fiber, micronutrients, and inflammation control matter just as much for your muscles, recovery, and longevity. Most quote-unquote fitness foods are optimized for marketing, not human health. So the moral there of that story is to don't necessarily fall for it if a brand or product is trying to promote itself as fitness food, workout food, muscle food. You know better now that you've listened to this podcast, and you know what to choose and what to avoid. And one of the last things I will mention on today's episode, I love the Game Changers documentary. If you are about getting in shape, building muscle, working out, improving your athletic performance, whatever your goal is for your physical fitness, health, body of 2026 and beyond, I highly recommend the Game Changers documentary. It is great and informative. It explains all about how many athletes are choosing to go plant-based and vegan and the results that they have seen. You can see different studies that they do in men and women to prove that it's really the ideal, optimal choice when it comes to physical fitness. It's the way of the future. So that is the end of our fitness segment. Here's a quote to end the episode that was all about fitness. It is from Anne Wigmore, and the quote is, "The food you eat can either be the safest, most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison." Let that resonate. And I'll say that once more because it is so important to remember. The food you eat can either be the safest, most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. And so true when it comes to getting in shape, optimizing your physical health, and trying to be the best physical version of yourself you can be. So thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to check out the ShopLogic website, the ShopLogic app, follow on socials like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, subscribe to the Spotify podcast for your weekly episodes to learn how we can buy better. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Adrienne with ShopLogic.